Today in the news, successful assaults by the Ukrainian Armed Forces on the border in the Belgorod region have seriously frightened Putin's infantry. Exclusive footage of the destruction of a Russian convoy. With a single strike on Engels, Ukraine's defense forces prevented 3 massive attacks on Ukrainian territory. Sanctions will be lifted as soon as Russia returns to Ukraine's internationally recognized borders, Emmanuel Macron stated. Details of the meeting between the leaders of Ukraine and France in today's report. Putin will die soon, and all this will end, Volodymyr Zelensky said in an interview with Eurovision. Another round of attacks on Ukrainian civilians. Yesterday, Russia struck Kharkiv and central Dnipro with Iranian drones. We don't care about your opinion. Get back to your country. Another outburst from Trump's team towards journalists. Greetings from Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. My name is Sofia Maleshko, and we're getting started. Russia will not stop at Ukraine. Putin has 15 scenarios for future military conflicts. Everything is planned out until 2045. Poland and the Baltic states are at risk. Ukraine's defense intelligence has uncovered the enemy's plans. But while the bunker dictator hatches Napoleonic schemes, the Ukrainian Armed Forces are once again storming the border of the Belgorod region. This is reported in hysteria by Ramzan Kadyrov's henchman and commander of Akhmat Abdialudinov. At the same time, Ukrainian forces are fighting the enemy. On the Novopavlivka front, an entire enemy convoy has been destroyed. Exclusive footage coming up next.
The armed forces of Ukraine repelled another enemy assault. In the Novopavlivka direction, our military destroyed an armored convoy of Russian invaders using drones. At the head of the column moved a tank with strong armor and anti-drone protection. The Ukrainian military noticed the column in time and immediately started striking it. At the Kupiansk direction of the front, the occupiers tried to approach closer to the trench of Ukrainian servicemen. A firefight ensued, which took place right in the trench. During the shootout, the Ukrainian soldier ran out of grenades. He had no choice but to continue defending with makeshift means. The Ukrainian defender threw his helmet at the enemy. The Russian thought it was an explosive and started to run away, but was eliminated. And at this time, Russia published a list of its own and Ukrainian objects that, according to the agreement in Saudi Arabia, cannot be shelled during the 30-day truce. The document is agreed upon between the United States and Russia. At least that's what the aggressor state claims. Only, there is one nuance. The Kremlin claims that the temporary moratorium began on the 18th of March 2025. The invaders cynically remain silent about targeting civilian infrastructure.
The Russian side included oil refining enterprises in the list of objects, oil and gas pipelines, oil storage facilities, including pumping stations, infrastructure for producing and transmitting electricity, including power plants, substations, transformers, and distribution. Plus, of course, nuclear power plants, dams, hydroelectric power plants. Regarding the statement by the Russian side about the moratorium from the 18th of March, it means that in this way the Russian Federation reserves the so-called right of the last word. That is, at any moment to accuse Ukraine of allegedly violating the current moratorium from the 18th.
And also in Saudi Arabia, the US delegation reached an agreement with the Ukrainian and Russian sides on ensuring the safety of navigation in the Black Sea. The movement of Russian military ships beyond the eastern part of the Black Sea will be considered a violation of the spirit of the agreements.
This agreement allows the Ukrainian side to effectively unblock the grain initiative. And the provision regarding the presence of remnants of the Black Sea fleet outside the area of trade routes allows the Ukrainian side to carry out the shipment of Ukrainian grain, Ukrainian minerals, and Ukrainian heavy metallurgy products to end consumers. Therefore, such conditions of the Ukrainian side primarily call on the American side when monitoring possible violations by the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation.
It is becoming clear that Russia intends to continue fighting, not only in Ukraine. According to the main intelligence directorate, Russia is preparing 15 more scenarios for possible military conflicts by the year 2045. And the Kremlin is striving to end the war in Ukraine by the year 2026 to keep up with the United States and China in global competition. Meanwhile, Russian authorities report about allegedly 3 attacks by the Ukrainian Armed Forces in the Belgorod region. Russian military correspondents are raising alarms. Several border villages with Ukraine have turned into a grey zone. According to them, Ukrainian forces have already entered the village of Demidovka.
The Ukrainian Defense Forces are conducting successful actions in the Belgorod region. It is reported that the Russian side acknowledged the loss of control over the settlements of Demidovka and the further advancement of Ukrainian Defense Forces in the direction of Grafovka. Moreover, the defense forces of Ukraine delivered precise strikes on the main logistical components of the Russian army, namely 2 bridges that ensured the logistical supply of the Russian grouping concentrated directly on the Russian-Ukrainian border.
The consequences of the precise strike by Ukrainian forces on the Engels military airfield in Russia's Saratov region have been revealed. According to Ukraine's general staff, the occupiers simultaneously lost 96 cruise missiles. This is equivalent to at least 3 massive missile attacks that the terrorist state launches on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. Additionally, the strike destroyed significant aviation fuel reserves. The attack occurred on March 20th.
Holy shit, something went off in there.
Yesterday, President Zelensky arrived in Paris, where he met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. After the meeting, they held a joint briefing with journalists. The French president announced a new €2 billion military aid package.
I wanted to announce today a new package of military support for Ukraine worth €2 billion.
According to Macron, this assistance will address the Ukrainian Armed Forces' priority needs: anti-tank missiles, air defense systems and missiles, and more. The French leader also commented on the recent negotiations between the US, Ukraine and Russia held in Saudi Arabia. Macron expressed doubts about Russia's commitment to peace and condemned its barbaric attack on civilians.
In Jeddah, Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire without preconditions, despite the fact that it was the victim of aggression. We expect the same commitment from Russia. And besides, Russia does not prove that it is striving for peace, because every day it continues to launch new strikes on the territory of Ukraine, including civilian targets, including against civilian objects. We condemn these attacks. They must be completely stopped.
Macron emphasized that European forces could be deployed to Ukraine without Russia's approval.
I want to emphasize that Russia has no right to influence European decisions to support Ukrainian sovereignty, because we are talking about the sovereignty of Ukraine and the security of the European continent.
At the end of the briefing, he also addressed the issue of lifting sanctions on Russia.
If tomorrow Russia says that it is returning to the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine, all sanctions will be lifted.
Immediately after the joint briefing, President Zelensky gave an interview to Eurovision. When asked what Putin fears, the Ukrainian leader predicted the Kremlin dictator's death, saying it would happen very soon.
Society depends on him, but it also depends on his age. He will die soon, that's a fact, and everything will be over. That is, he can finish his questions before he, well, let's say, ends his absolutely safe and unsuccessful historical life.
Zelensky also noted that the only thing that can stop Putin, apart from his own death, is internal resistance in his country, and it will be inevitable if the West countries to put pressure on Russia.
If all of our partners are as strong as they are, if they want to demonstrate their strength, even if it is not overwhelming, they will put pressure on Putin, and he will have destabilization in society. He is afraid of this.
Russians are openly admitted on live broadcasts that they continue to strike Ukraine's energy infrastructure, calling these attacks the isolation of the combat zone.
In general, the strikes on the energy sector are still going on, but we are not disconnecting entire regions, but isolating the area of military operations. This can be seen on the example of Dnipropetrovsk region.
Mr. Trump, is this how Putin shows his respect for you and your peace initiatives? Unfortunately, Russia continues its so-called isolation of the combat zone, or whatever other excuses it uses to justify its crimes. Yesterday, Russian forces once again attacked peaceful Ukrainian cities. The targets this time were Kharkiv and Dnipro. In Kharkiv, 11 people were injured, including a 14-year-old girl. Immediately afterward, residential areas in central Dnipro were hit. See the details in the material of our colleagues.
11 wounded in Kharkiv. Thought the previous evening the Russians massively attacked the city with shaheds. We ask our Irina Antoniuk about the consequences of the attack. She is with us live. Ira, where were the hits and what is the current condition of the people who were injured?
Marina, hello. According to the prosecutor's calculations, about 15 drones hit Kharkiv. They fired continuously for 40 minutes. These explosions were heard throughout the city. As the prosecutor's office again reports, there were repeated strikes on the same places, and the Russian invaders hit residential buildings, multi-story buildings, private houses, garage cooperatives, and civilians enterprises. A very strong fire broke out in one of the warehouses, which rescuers were still trying to contain until morning. As for the victims, indeed, by the morning, there was information about 11 people, among them 2 children, 14 and 6 years old, all of them injured, bruises, cuts from glass, but life is not in. At this moment, according to the information from the medics, nothing is threatening. Also, 5 people have a very strong reaction to stress, well, because indeed, these drones, they literally fell near residential buildings, this high-rise building near which we are located, just a meter away from it. One of the drones fell. Here is what a woman who survived this attack, a resident of a nearby apartment, said.
It was very loud, very scary. We were already going to bed and heard a loud explosion. We need to keep living and working and do something. It was loud, yes, it was scary. My daughter was very scared, 14 years old. Well, of course, she cried.
This apartment building suffered the most, but fortunately it was almost uninhabited. It is a very new building which was literally put into operation just before the full-scale invasion, and residents simply hadn't moved in yet. Now, already this morning, we see that all the public services have arrived here and are trying to put the whole area in order after this strike. That's the information for now. Marina.
Thank you, Ira. Irina Antoniuk from Kharkiv about the massive attack by shaheds on the city. Right after the attack on Kharkiv, the enemy targeted Dnipro. Shaheds hit the city center. A residential complex is damaged. Sofia Moskalenko is with us. Sofia, how many are injured at the moment, and what is the situation in the city and region after the attack?
Hello, Marina. Below, as a result of the nighttime UAV attack on Dnipro, 3 people were injured. A 48-year-old man and 2 women aged 75 and 78. All of them received medical assistance on site and will continue treatment as outpatients. I remind you that around 10 p.m., Mokulisir Panzer La Fortiertem, the Russians sent a group Sahel to Dnipro. Explosions occurred in different parts of the city. Several fires broke out, which had been extinguished by the rescuers by morning. Also, we have information from our air defense that 6 more drones were shot down during the night. As for Dnipro, there is damage at an enterprise, at educational and cultural institutions. About 10 apartment buildings are also damaged, 60 cars damaged, and 2 more completely destroyed. Such is the information from the Regional Military Administration. I will also add that during the night, the Russian army terrorized Nikopol as well. It was hit by enemy artillery and a kamikaze drone. A 30-year-old woman was injured. Additionally, a private house and an apartment building were damaged there. And also infrastructure and admin, well, that's all I have.
Today, Putin's militants struck the center of Kherson. During this terrorist attack, a local animal shelter was hit, and unfortunately, some animals lost their lives.
Russians do not spare people or animals.
Scandals and rudeness are becoming a signature trait of the U.S. president and his team. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a member of the Homeland Security Committee and one of Trump's staunchest supporters, reacted sharply and rudely to a British journalist's question about the U.S. administration's signal messenger correspondence. She blatantly interrupted the reporter and told her to go back home.
Yeah, Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary...
What country are you? Wait, what country are you from?
From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
Okay,
And you, no. You should care about your own borders.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
Let me tell you something. Do you care about people from your country? What about all the women that are raped by migrants?
Do you care
No,
about...
by migrants. No, do you care? Okay, you're done.
Do you care about American lives being put at risk?
You know what? I don't care.
Service members fighting for your country.
I don't care about
and
your
Vice
fake news.
President?
American journalists tried to steer the conversation back to the issue of leaked information, but Greeny dodged the question, instead switching the topic to migration and blaming the previous Biden administration.
Do you have a relevant question? Yeah, this is an American journalist. Thank you.
I'm an American, and I'd like to hear your answer to what she's asking.
I'm not answering her question because I don't care about her network. If you would like to ask, I can answer.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever about the complete disregard of operational security from the top level of this administration?
You want to know about complete disregard about operational security? You should talk about the Biden administration and how they ripped our borders open to terrorists, cartel, child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and drug trafficking across our borders for 4 years. The Trump administration is doing a great job, and I stand by their statements. I stand by their statements. My comment to you is I'm thankful to President Trump that he is leading us out of wars, that he's ending the war in Ukraine, where American lives could have been killed if Joe Biden was still president today, whether he liked it or not. We're talking about NPR and PBS today. We're talking about fake news that was funded with federal funding from American taxpayers. That's what this is about today, not journalists from the UK that should care about
a journalist is being vilified for exposing failings in the way.
Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance has dressed in a style of Ukrainian presidential office head Andriy Yermak. What happened to the suit that Mr. Vance supposedly liked so much?
Under President Trump's leadership, we believe in a very simple principle. We don't care who you are, where you came from, we don't care what skin color you are, we care about excellence and we care about patriotism.
We don't care where you are from, said J.D. Vance. Please tell that to the journalist from Britain. That's all for today. Please don't forget to subscribe and press the thumbs up. Glory to Ukraine.